Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining Office Hours tonight, Thursday, December 3rd. It's already December. That's crazy. Anyway, I'm super excited for our guest today, Jeff Shapiro. Jeff and I are Twitter friends, and that's where we hang out together a lot. And he is a director of talent acquisition. And what I love about Jeff's tweets are he's very, very committed to the candidate or the job seeker experience. And as someone on the job seeker side, I really appreciate that. But what I want to do tonight is to really kind of flip the script a bit and talk more about what we as job seekers can do to work best with folks in talent acquisition and recruitment. Just to give you some background on Jeff, he has 10 years experience as a recruiter and talent acquisition leader specializing in healthcare. And he currently runs talent acquisition at RadNet, which has 290 and counting outpatient radiology centers in the US. That's a lot. And he was just telling me that they're very busy. As you can imagine, healthcare is booming, right? So without any further delay, I am going to bring Jeff into the stream. Hello, Jeff.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm psyched. Thank you for having me. I'm utterly flattered that you've asked for my opinion on things, so thank you.
Well, I think you have some great opinions, and we've had some really good discussions on Twitter. So I was really hoping that we could bring these discussions to Office Hours. What comes up a lot in your tweets, I'm noticing, is you talk a lot about empathy, which I really appreciate. I'm hoping you can help job seekers tonight get a better understanding of, let's start with the basics. Like, what is the difference between recruiting and talent acquisition? Is there a difference?
There depends on who you ask. I will say my answer is going to be different than a lot of other people. So I'm in healthcare. It's the same thing as a patient goes to see a doctor. You see 3 different doctors, you might get 3 different answers, maybe. Okay. So I will say my answer is not the answer. There are people who will strongly agree with me. But I tend to believe recruiting is part of talent acquisition.
Okay.
So a recruiter is designed to, here's a position or a requisition in our world, an open position. I am working this position. My job as a recruiter is to fill it. So recruiter can mean, in my world, in-house, which is talent acquisition. And then I'll explain a little bit about what that job title is. Or on the agency side, where these are people who have a client, they are working for the client to fill that position. So a recruiter, in layman's terms, is a seat filler. I have a job, I need to fill it. Filling that job is a seat. That could also be on, people in my world work with third-party vendors where we outsource, called an RPO, recruitment process outsourcing. So that is what a recruiter does. Recruiting is one function of talent acquisition. Talent acquisition is much more involved than just, here is my position, I need to fill it, focused on the now. Talent acquisition is holistically looking at recruiting and staffing, which are 2 very different things. Mm-hmm. Recruiting and staffing are 2 very different things. Talent acquisition will partner with their operating partners. So I have strong feelings that a hiring manager is not a customer in my world. I've said that before to many people.
Yes.
They are our partners. And in talent acquisition, we are looking at all and anything we could think of when it comes to operationally recruiting and staffing. So this department requires 10 FTEs. You have 1 opening now. How long is it realistically going to take us to fill that 1 opening? In that amount of time, how many people should you anticipate in your attrition? What's your turnover going to look like? So if you're looking for 1 and you're estimated to lose 1, you should be looking for 2. If you're looking for 1 right now and you're burning through 160 hours of overtime in a month, you might want to say, I could eliminate using overtime by hiring 2 instead of 1. You may want to look at, what does my FMLA look like? And yes, these people have jobs that are protected, but operationally there is a need. In my world, we have patients to see. Right. So I will bring somebody in as an FTE right now with somebody out on FMLA, And I know I could forecast that by the time this person comes back from FMLA, somebody else is going to resign. So I may as well hire somebody now, and I have a comparable position for them. So there's a lot of strategy involved in talent
sounds like a lot. Sounds like a lot of strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, looking at the whole thing and partnering with your hiring managers on what really is the best practice, what is a realistic expectation, and how do we get you away from what's called an operational gap. An operational gap is this position is vacant and it is impacting our revenue right now. Not having somebody in this seat is killing us. So we need to figure out how to do that now and protect it from happening in the future. So that's where the differences come in. And recruiting is a very hard skill. Recruiters are phenomenal at what they do.
For sure.
But I think recruiting, when everybody thinks of recruiting, headhunting, that is really laser focused on, I need to fill this thing right now. Most likely it's as quickly as possible. When you go to a recruiter, in my world, if I go to a third party, it is probably because my team, for lack of better words, has failed. The position has been open for so long that it's getting so painful that it has now justified me spending extra money to partner with an outside vendor, get their area of expertise to look at something that we may not notice, to have streams of talent that we may not know about because they may be willing to spend more money when it comes to budgeting and marketing and recruitment marketing. So I really need a recruiter to recruit for that specific role. So I hope that kind of gives a bird's eye view.
Yeah, definitely. So what really stands out to me is the strategy piece of this in talent acquisition. So in knowing as job seekers, and knowing that there's a lot of business strategy going on in talent acquisition, that their potential job that they're applying to is part of an overall larger strategy, how can we as job seekers make it easier, so to speak, to get hired? Like how can we improve our chances, let's say, when working with talent acquisition folks?
If talent acquisition is doing it right, they should be thinking about job seekers and applicants who are now candidates. If you're on the phone with somebody in talent acquisition, they are probably thinking about you for positions that you didn't even know exist. It might be something that's coming down the pipeline. So if talent acquisition is doing their job properly, you apply to this job. I don't want to screen you for that job and its location or schedule. So one of the things I'm working with my team on is so let's focus on New York. Most people know New York. So New York, 5 boroughs. If somebody applies to a job in Queens, and I'm on the phone with them, I should not be asking them only about Queens. I should be saying to them, based on where you live, what is a realistic commute for you? What are you comfortable with? Because you may or may not know, I have something in Brooklyn. I have something in Staten Island. I have something in Nassau County. And you're willing to go there. I shouldn't be focusing on that one schedule for that one job where you're working Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and every other weekend. I should be asking you, what, if any, scheduling restrictions do you have? And you could be telling me I'm available 7 days a week. I'm just never available to work Tuesdays. And I don't care that you're not available to work Tuesdays. I don't even want to know why. All I now know is here's a candidate that is willing to go anywhere in this circumference, and they are willing to work any of these days except for these times. You are now somebody that I could present to more than just the hiring manager for the job you applied to, but all the other operational departments where your skills, your knowledge, skills, and ability might be a fit. So that's if talent acquisition is really doing what they should on all cylinders.
Okay.
For the job seeker, I think the pandemic has opened a lot of eyes to people on employers' need to be flexible.
Right.
I think job seekers are flexible, but part of what I think job seekers do not realize with flexibility is have flexibility in being what's called like a float employee. Maybe don't zero yourself to working for this company in this one location. If you apply to a job at Org A, and Org A has 7 different spots within 20 miles of you, how many of those are you willing to go to? That's something you might want to tell a recruiter or a TA partner. Hey, while I researched the company and applied to the role, I applied for the role at position in this location, but I noticed you have 4 other locations. I am willing to go to 3 of those locations.
That's such a great point you bring up, because so many people wonder about like applying to multiple roles. So you're saying just be kind of preemptive with that and have that conversation like right out of the gate. Like, I noticed you have 4 open roles at your 4 different locations. I'm open to all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you? You're now somebody that I could think about for 4 roles instead of 1. Your probability goes up. Everybody knows when you're a job seeker, the more you apply, the more likely you are to get a job. At some point, you're applying, you're interviewing, someone is going to give you a job offer. It's like I tell recruiters, the more people you talk to on the phone, the more people you have to put in front of a hiring manager. The more people you have to put in front of a hiring manager, the more offers are going to be extended.
True.
If you are a job seeker, the more positions or more locations you are interested in, the higher your probability is of actually landing a job.
Excellent. Well, that's great advice. Just wanted to take a look at the chat. We've got some people saying hello. So Dolores says good evening. Melanie says thumbs up. Julie says hi. Helen says hi. Kamara, hi Jeff. And Jeanette says hello. Hello everybody. Thank you for joining us. Please do type your questions for Jeff in the chat on YouTube, and comments. I think it will be on LinkedIn. So please definitely give us your questions and we will get to them. So you were saying that you're open to opportunities at different locations, let's say. What if they're 2 kind of different roles, not wildly different roles, but 2 sort of different roles? How would you express interest and qualifications for both in an appropriate way?
It's a tightrope, because you need to, as a job seeker, like, hold yourself accountable as well. You got to be realistic on what your expectations are. Like, yes, you're interested in the job, but in reality, are you qualified for it? So I would say you want to express that you are realistic in who you are and what you bring to the table, and you are interested in it. So
for sure,
whether it is like, we are high volume in our call center requisitions. We are high volume at the front desk, a patient service administrator. If you're willing to sit at the front desk in site 1, you're probably willing to sit at the front desk in site 2, 3, or 4 if you're comfortable with the commute.
Right.
That does not mean that you are also a good applicant to be a mammo technologist. You are by no means qualified. You don't have the license. You don't have the certifications.
Right.
So you got to be realistic. You can't just say, hey, organization, this is what I've done in my career. I'm willing to do anything for you anywhere. So
right.
You as the job seeker, you got to do your homework. You got to do your value proposition. Where are you going to add value? What have you done? And I think we're going to talk about that a little more, but it's not as easy as it sounds on this casual conversation of, hey, just tell them you're interested in multiple sites and you're going to get a job.
Right.
You still do need to be qualified for the job.
Of course.
What we want to avoid is having you as the job seeker go through 3 or 4 different interviews with talent acquisition for 3 or 4 different jobs. I shouldn't talk to you 3 different times about 3 different jobs. Let me tell you, now that you've told me where you're willing to go, here are some other things I have available. Do any of them by job title sound interest? Great. Here's some information for you to review, and get back to me within 24 to 40 hours. Put them in your priority order. So if we talk about 3 different jobs, prioritize them. Don't just get back to me saying I'm interested in all 3.
That doesn't help anyone.
You know I'm in talent acquisition. I forecast attrition. I want to put you in the job that you are most interested in. I don't want to talk you into the one job that is number 3 on the list if you're more interested in number 1.
Right.
Because if I put you in the wrong job, you're gone within 30, 60, or 90 days because you're just settling until something else comes along that is of more interest. So I always tell people, be very realistic. Don't just tell me you're willing to go anywhere. What is a commute that you are actually going to be interested in? Because at the end of it all, I want you to be happy. I don't want to set you up to fail. I want you to join us and be here and make an impact. And I want you to be happy to come here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The happiness is super important. Speaking of like knowing, like being self-aware, in terms of, again, working with talent acquisition folks, when you were on Social HR podcast, you were talking about you were talking about talent acquisition professionals having or perfecting their notes. So I guess the notes that back up the business case that they're making to the partner. So how can we as job seekers really help kind of beef up those notes? Like, how can we give you good notes on us or good information on us as job seekers?
So on social, I did post that I would reveal one of my secrets today. So
okay,
I am a big believer in something called effective communication.
Yes.
So effective communication, like everybody could understand what I am talking about in the business world. You send out information to a group of 5 people, and that turns into 25 emails. Why did that happen? Because you were not effective. You sent out something that created more questions than it answered.
Right.
So, to the job seeker, effective communication is what I call TSAOA. It is timely, specific, accurate, objective, and actionable. These are things you want to have on your resume. Your resume wants to be accomplishments. I do not want to see fluffy adjectives that say, articulate team player that is also a self-starter. That means nothing to me at all. I want to know about a project that you were the project manager on. And I'm going to ask you what went wrong. When did you hit your deadlines? And that's okay. Things should go wrong. No project goes start to finish without a hiccup. What I want to know is what went wrong, what did you learn from it, and what did you put in place to prevent that from happening again?
Yes.
We all make mistakes. So when you are working on your resume, do not use fluffy adjectives just to make yourself sound smart and articulate. I want facts. I want to know accomplishments. I want to know things that you have done. And I know a lot of people will push back and say, I'm not held to anything or performance, or I was never on a project. But any job you are in, they are measuring your success without a doubt. And if you do not know how to measure your success, look at your performance reviews. If you've had a job before, you've had an annual review. How are they measuring your success and your performance? If you work in a call center, don't just tell me that you work in a high volume call center on your resume. Tell me that you managed 100 inbound calls per day. Tell me that you had a first call resolution of 97%. Tell me that your average call duration is 1:27. And these are all things I'm making up. But,
of course. Yeah.
These are numbers that you and your managers are talking about no matter what. If you work in retail, tell me about your upsells or things that you have done to when, let's see, I don't even know retail, so I can't even pretend. When someone came in to buy a pair of shoes, you successfully, 70% of the time, you got them to buy an add-on item, whether it's new laces or socks to go along with it. Yeah. Those are things that people want to know. So no matter what job you had, there is something that is measurable that you were doing.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think I don't know what you're noticing in the resumes crossing your desk, but what I see is a lot of people giving employers what they think employers want to hear, or basing it off a terrible job posting.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really bad advice out there. One of them I see daily. I will not say who gives bad advice. I will not blow up people's spots, but I see bad advice all the time. And I see if you want to beat the ATS, cut and paste the measurable skills from the job posting and put that in your resume because you have a higher hit ratio. I will say this, there are a lot of people in my industry who will say this. The ATS is not rejecting your resume. Right. A human being is physically looking at your resume, passing on you. There is no auto reject. Somebody hit that button and actually put eyes on it. So again, bad advice is out there. I would say trust your gut, trust what you know. Yes. I have also heard that you should change your resume for the job that you are going after. I think that is a half truth. Your resume should speak about what you have done and accomplished in the past. You will want to cater that to the job that you are pursuing, yes. But you don't want to knock out all of your accomplishments from the past. Right. Just to cut and paste something from the job description you saw that you're pursuing.
Right. Right. Totally agree. Yeah. The ATS drives me crazy, as you know. All the ATS talk drives me crazy. So thank you for reminding everybody that there's a human behind that rejection if you received it. Anyway, we just have some notes coming in. Everyone loves your note about fluffy adjectives and to avoid them. Debbie says, haha, fluffy adjectives. Diana says, yes, avoid the fluff in your resume. And also she says, great examples. I agree. Those quantifiable examples were great. And also measure your own successes to stand out. Agreed. Debbie's also noting, it's amazing how numbers establish credibility. One statement full of adjectives can be transformed by focusing on results, by quantifying them and being more selective with adjectives. I agree. I think sometimes we can do some damage when we quantify in terms of making it look like we play smaller than we do. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
I agree. Listen, I am a very metrics-driven TA professional. Like, I love numbers, but I will admit when I am wrong, and the pandemic has opened my eyes to, I used to tell my team, like, if we are focused on people's names and not the volume, the numbers, like, I don't want to hear about candidate Jane. I want to hear about pure numbers, because if we are talking about Jane as a candidate, we are pinning our hopes on Jane, and we're not doing it right. I am wrong, so numbers are a huge part of what we do. They help tell a story, but the narrative, the actual story, is much more important. I completely agree with what we are saying here. So I'm not saying if you are eloquent with the keyboard, you absolutely should show that off. Like, a good writer is a good writer. But I also believe that if writing is not a skill for the job, I don't necessarily care if you're a good writer or not.
Sure.
Find another way. Not everybody is good at writing, so that's okay. You might be better verbal. Just remember, like, at the end of this, think of whatever your end game is at every process. When you are applying, the end game is you want your resume to quantify somebody picking up the phone and calling you. When you are on the phone with a recruiter, you want to demonstrate to them that you possess the skills for the role, the knowledge, skills, and ability. I will tell you, like, TA partners and recruiters, we will not be able to tell you if you are going to be a high performer in that role, but we are going to focus on, do you possess the core values and behaviors that we are looking for? At the end of the day, when my team is done with a phone screen with a candidate, they are asking themselves one question. Is this person I just spoke to going to give the patient experience we are looking for? If they are, I'm moving them forward. The hiring manager and my clinical team, they are the ones who need to weed out, does this person have the clinical chops? Are they going to be strong technically, hands-on with a patient? Do they have what it takes? I am not that person. I could not tell you if somebody is going to have a 97% image quality on their Xrays and MRIs and CTs and mammography. Like, that's just not what we do. But I can tell you if the patient's going to be dazzled by that person. So think about the end game at every step of your interview. Your resume is to merit a phone conversation. You don't want to give me too much. You still want me to learn something about you. You don't want to just regurgitate what's on your resume on the phone screen.
Right.
Because then you're not going to dazzle me. Why did I need to call you? I've learned everything there is to know about you on paper.
Right.
So your resume should make me want to call you. My phone call with you should make me believe that you're going to execute on our mission, our vision, and our values enough that you should meet with a hiring manager or a clinical leader in my world for healthcare. But it's industry changeable. Like, if you are in hospitality or you're in finance, you're in law, like, that person still is going to decide if you're going to dazzle their customers. Right. Everybody has a customer in every industry. We're all revenue generating. Everybody has a customer. So your job is to dazzle TA and the recruiter that you will deliver the organization's core values. In other words, sell me on you will hold up my company. Then your next interview is going to be with the decision maker, the person you're reporting to. That interview is going to be focused on, do you actually possess the skills to do this job? So just keep an end game at every step along the line.
That's such great advice. And I guess this really goes back to really before you're applying to a role, before you're interviewing for a role, have a really good idea of what the employer's mission is, as you said, Jeff, their values, and what business need you're fulfilling by possibly going into the role to which you're applying. Because you're bringing some sort of solution. What's that solution and why do they want it, right? This is great. So did we get through the whole TSAOA? What else?
Timely, specific, accurate, objective, actionable.
Actionable. Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention about that system?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Right.
But if anybody has questions, I readily make myself available to people. So DMs, emails, I'm happy to chat more.
Well, that's very generous of you. So Jeff is very active on Twitter. And also if you're on YouTube, I've linked all of Jeff's social in the description of this video. So you can go and connect with him there, Twitter and LinkedIn, right? Those are your main platforms, Jeff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So just checking in on a couple more notes that have come in on the chat. Helen says, BU, ATS drives me crazy too. Yeah. I think we all are driven crazy by it. Ricklin, I'm a resume writer and I work with a lot of clients who don't know how to keep up with how they are measured, even experienced professionals, especially in HR. I've seen some of that in my travels. How about you, Jeff?
Agree. Yeah. Without saying too much, yes, it is a shame. But if you don't know and you don't have somebody internally to ask or talk to, this is the beauty of social media. There is a network of professionals who are very like-minded on, if I know something that somebody else does not, I want to share it. Like, we all want to pull each other up, especially in my world. So I can tell you I'm sensitive to the fact that as a job seeker, most of you have horrible experiences with people in recruiting. And I will tell you, just remember, like, the next recruiter you talk to may not have been that recruiter. Like, there is an ongoing joke in Twitter with like-minded professionals that we make fun of job seekers that hate us. And our line is like, I'm sorry you had a bad experience with a recruiter, but I am not that recruiter.
Right.
And they're like, hey, by the way, job seekers, keep in mind, we have some horrible experiences with job seekers too. How would you like it if we treated you poorly because of the previous job seeker that we spoke to? So yes, you are being recruited. You are being ghosted by recruiters. I know it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but we are being ghosted by candidates as well. We are extending offers. People are accepting them, and they're not even showing up to work on the first day and not answering phone calls. They're not getting back to us to let us know, I have received a competing offer, or I have decided I've accepted a counter offer. So ghosting happens. Just remember, everything that you are experiencing, it goes two ways. Come into everything with positive intent. So whatever happened in the past, remember that recruiter is not the recruiter you are talking to next time. And ultimately, like, as a job seeker, the best piece of advice I can give you is wherever you land, just make sure it's a place where you can absolutely be your whole self. So I am very big on making sure you could be who you are at work and you don't feel like you have to fit in. Because if you could work where you could bring your whole self, you will have a much happier career, and you will not be looking at, is the grass greener on the other side? And those places do exist. I can tell you there are organizations that it does exist.
100%. That's very inspirational. I love that. Yeah, and I'm glad you're reminding the viewers and job seekers to really kind of let go of those previous bad experiences with recruiters. Really just let go of that baggage. It's like when you're dating and it's like you just go in to a first date with someone and it's like you already hate them because you had a bad date the other day. Like, you can't go through life like that. It just, you'll never find happiness. And this is very similar in this sense. So wonderful. Thanks for that. So let's talk about social media. And I love that you've been encouraging everybody to reach out to you on social media, as well as reach out to other people, especially within the hashtag recruiter Twitter hashtag, where we all hang out. So there's that. But how do you feel job seekers can really engage with future or potential employers effectively to actually build solid relationships?
It's a really great question. And I'm not really sure there is a whole answer.
Okay.
So much as engaging in conversations, like there is something called the halo effect. So people like working with people that they like.
Right.
It is a thing. Like, we all have bias. We try to eliminate them, but
Sure.
if you can get to somebody faster, like if you see, let's say I'm a job seeker, and I know more than a normal job seeker because I am in the industry.
Right.
But if I was looking for a job, the first thing I would look at is like, who is the job attached to a name
Mm-hmm.
instead of just a resumes at abcorg.com.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that name? I'm going to look for that person on LinkedIn. I'm going to look for that person on Twitter. And without even filling out an application, I want to start a conversation. And I'm going to see that was posted by Jeff Shapiro. And, hey, Jeff, saw your posting of job XYZ. I'm really interested. Because now I now have your name in front of me. I might tell you to fill out an application. But when I'm looking through applications, I already know your name. It's already in my mind. So I will make sure to look at that. And instead of, yes, that stereotype of 6 to 7 seconds is real. It is actually a lot of time to look at a resume when you look at hundreds of resumes a day. But when I know your name, that 6 to 7 seconds might be higher volume and higher content for you, because I don't need to immediately draw my eyes, which we could talk about, by the way, to the top of the page that has your name, address, birth date, your name, address, email, and phone number.
Right.
So we could talk about formatting of resumes as well, because I can blow everybody's mind. But that's where I think social media could be huge. I can tell you, we recently hired an executive in our organization simply because this person, she already said, emailed myself, the CEO, and the SVP of Human Resources about the particular position, calling attention to, I'm very interested in your organization. I have applied. I just wanted you to know my application is there, because right away, when you get an email, you're going to look at that person's profile on social media and, wow, just based on social media, this looks like somebody that we will want to talk to. So instead of me waiting to open the requisition, I immediately looked at her application because of what I saw on LinkedIn.
Right.
So social media can fast track you. I know a lot of people like to go directly to a hiring manager. Like, people always use that cliche of bypass HR whenever you can. I think there is value in it, but I will tell you, if TA and HR is doing their job with operations, you're not going to get a response. I know for sure. I can confidently say if somebody reaches out to one of my hiring managers, they're not calling that person on the phone. They're forwarding the resume to somebody on my team.
Okay.
Because all first line of conversation should happen with me.
Right.
So can it work? Yes. You might get lucky, or you may have reached out to the hiring manager who sent it to me, and I'm going to say, like, is this a referral? Is it somebody you know? They're going to tell me, no, they just solicited me. But the resume looks great, because you know they're going to look at your resume. And then if I screened you and I do move you forward, they might remember your name. So that might get your interview scheduled faster. And these are all very fictitious situations.
Right.
But I would say you definitely, as a job seeker, want to respect the confounds and parameters of who is in what lane. And you really should go straight to talent acquisition if they have a talent acquisition department, or if there is a job posting, whoever's name is attached to job posting is probably driving the process.
Got it. Well, that clears something up for me, because I always was of the thinking, go to the people who are making the final decisions. But what you're saying makes
it might work.
Well,
it might work in other organizations, but I know for sure I captain a very tight ship. I am very clear with my operating partners in all business functions, not just operations, and marketing and finance, on what the process should be, because I want every candidate to go through the same exact process. I don't want a different process for a different person, because that creates inequity. It needs to be equitable and fair for everybody. And everybody needs to go through the same process.
That's such a good point. Actually, speaking of equity and fairness, I just want to touch on a question, the one I DM'd you about earlier, and then I want to circle back to resumes, and then we've got some more questions in the chat.
Yeah.
But okay, so a question that was sent to my email earlier this week was about the questions asked on an online application around disability, race, and gender. So what do employers do with that information, first of all? And then is there any disadvantage if you opt out of answering those questions, if you can?
Okay. So you properly phrase that at opting out versus just putting any type of answer. So
Okay.
I will delicately answer this under the guidelines that talent acquisition is a subdivision of human resources.
Okay.
So I am by no means your go-to HR expert here. So this is we're swimming in waters that I know about, but I could not talk expertly like I can on other subjects.
Got it. Okay.
But they are there for us as an organization to track on the background, to track in the background and report out to the government. These are all about making sure that we are absolutely being fair and equitable and inclusive and not knocking people out.
Right.
I can tell you, I will answer from my experiences, in every job that I have ever worked on the corporate side, I will never share a job application with a hiring manager. The hiring manager should not see your application, which is where those things are answered.
Okay.
Because it can create a bias that maybe they don't even know about. There is subconscious bias. Somebody could read something and have that foregone conclusion. Right. So they are there for reporting purposes. They're also there for us to, like we're in healthcare. So healthcare, DE&I is not as big as an issue as in others because healthcare is predominantly dominated by women.
Right.
Most women are caregivers. So like when we do our studies, we can now use our applications to report out on what our employee census looks like.
Okay, yeah.
Demographically, what is their gender? Where are they coming from? What are we looking like in our veteran hiring? Like anything that somebody identifies themselves as, we could report out and brag on. And I can say this confidently because we just did this. Like we are very proud to brag on what our numbers are on DE and DEI.
Right.
So that's what it's there for. Now, you did say omitting. So the proper job application should allow you to leave it blank before you can move forward, or it should have a check the box for like decline to answer. Right. The important thing is that you do one of those two things, as opposed to just checking off anything to move through it.
Right.
And by anything, you are now falsifying your application. So it can come down to you have falsified your application and we have extended you an offer of employment. We now realize you have falsified your application. I don't need any grounds. We could rescind the offer immediately.
Right.
You are 2 weeks into the job. I most likely do not even need to put you on a performance improvement plan. You have falsified your application. You are terminated.
Right.
So it's very important that you do not lie. I do encourage you to fill it out because there are issues in this country. There is systemic issues that organizations are hopefully finally looking at.
Right.
And we do have to report out on these things, which is what that is there for, because hiring managers are not seeing this. Your decision makers are not seeing it.
Okay.
They do not need to know. They should not be asking you. These are not questions that are even legal to ask. So you should confidently answer these questions without feeling you are going to disqualify yourself.
Okay. I was trying to rack my brain for a way that it would disqualify someone, even if they said no, like they declined to answer. It just doesn't sound like it.
No, you just put in the percentage of people that decline to identify or decline to answer.
Right.
That's where you would show up in our EEOC to the government.
Right. And so it means
7% of our employees have declined to answer.
Got it. And so it means nothing in talent acquisition. Like it's
no. Listen, job seekers, talent acquisition, and recruiters want to fill jobs.
Right.
They do not care if you are a man, woman, pink, purple, black, yellow. They don't care. What they care is, are you going to dazzle their customer?
Yeah.
Do you meet the minimum requirements when it comes to education? Do you possess the skills?
Got it.
I do not care about any of the other stuff at all.
Got it.
At the end of the day, like most of the people in my profession are here because we are into people.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
At the end of the day, we want to help people. We want to help them get jobs.
Makes sense. And the decline to answer factor is a non-issue as well, right? It just is.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yep. Great. Thank you. I'm glad we talked about that. That's really enlightening. Okay. So, resumes. So it sounds like you had something you wanted to mention about resume formatting.
I did. And I think you want to talk about ageism as well, but on resume formatting.
Yeah, we have so much still covered, but yeah.
Resume formatting.
Yeah.
Okay. So the 67-second rule that you hear is legit. That is real.
Yeah.
What I want to get people to start thinking about, and granted, I am not normal. I know I am not normal. I am out there when it comes to radical ideas.
Okay.
Why, if you know, I would do, if I was looking for a job and I know someone is spending 6 to 7 seconds on my resume.
Yeah.
Why am I going to put the least important information at the top center of the page where I know a recruiter's eyes are trained to go first?
Okay.
First thing everybody looks at is that top center.
Yep.
Your name, your address, your phone number, email.
Yep.
Why don't you put that at the bottom? And why don't you capitalize on who you are professionally, top center?
Interesting.
Sell me immediately on your most outstanding professional accomplishment. What are you most proud of? Get me excited to keep going.
Okay.
And if you do that, you're also standing out now. Whoa, this resume looks different than everybody else. Mm-hmm. By the way, my 6 to 7 seconds, you just threw me off. So because of that 6 to 7 seconds just became 9 to 11 because it broke my normal cadence of where all my eyes are trained to go.
Okay.
And you might get some extra seconds, which means some extra time.
Okay.
So I think what a job seeker should do is top center, brag about yourself. And I will stand by the statement. There's a difference between confidence and arrogance. Mm-hmm. I know for sure I am a confident person. I know for sure I'm not arrogant. Right. Being confident and being proud of your accomplishments is something you should be happy to talk about. You should not feel like you are bragging.
Yes, and that's such a major
resume idea.
That's very interesting. So you don't think that a job seeker would be at a disadvantage by creating more work for you, by for you to hunt for, say, their name and contact information?
I have to look at your application. Okay. No matter what, I have to look at it because I can tell you I'm tracking my team. When somebody applies, I am tracking how long they're sitting in menu status. When you apply to a job, I am tracking how long it takes my team to physically review your application. Okay. Is it 24 hours? Is it 48? Is it 72? And all of that is different depending on the job title and the volume of applications we get. Got it. But I know I could rest assured if you apply to a job, your resume is being looked at by somebody. Okay. Got it. Even if it's slightly unconventional. Yeah, I think that's just going to extend it out. That's cool. That's a cool take. I find that I've never heard that before. That is a Jeff Shapiro original. I'm out there with my ideas. I'm out there with my ideas, and it may go nowhere. The industry might think I am foolish. If I was job seeking, I would do it. So I will say, if I was job seeking, I would do it, and I would track it. I could tell anybody in this chat, I track everything. Okay. I love measuring data. Right. If I applied to 10 jobs with the new resume format and got 0 phone calls, I would switch back to the old format, apply to 10 jobs, and see how many phone calls I got. So a little bit of an experiment. Testing. Yeah, I have numbers. A/B testing. They are wrong. But it's the same thing as recruiters. When we send you email solicitations, we're tracking what works. What subject line is working. For sure. What's getting the most clicks? What's getting the most opens? Yeah. I might change it to let's pilot A, B, and C. And A, B, and C at an open rate of 7%. Let's change it to CBA, and it jumped up to 9%. Right. Until I find something better, I'm going to keep going with whatever is working best. Yeah. So makes sense. If you are job seeking is a job. It's hard. Yeah. I get it. It's hard. You will burn out. But if you're not tracking these things, you're not going to do yourself any services. You should know where you applied, when you applied. These are things you might care about. If I applied to a job, let me pull up the calendars. If I applied to a job on 11/14 and they didn't get back to me until today, do I really want to work there? How responsive is that company? And listen, I'm not telling people don't take a job. I am sensitive to the fact 30 million people are unemployed right now. Yeah. But if I could track that, and then I also applied to a job on 11/26 and somebody responded to me on 11/29, I could also deduct they responded faster. That's a little more urgent. I might want to respond to them before I respond to the other people, because I could probably guess the other people got back to me so late because they already extended an offer and it was declined. So now they're going back to the pool. I would, and I could be wrong. I'm just fictitiously making up the scenario.
Right.
Or they could just be a very large organization that drags their feet.
Yeah.
And I'm a big, I'm a builder. I don't like maintaining. I like building when it comes to work. And if it took you that long to respond to my application, how innovative and creative are you going to let me be?
That's such a good
You're
point.
very antiquated in your ways. I know for sure you're antiquated.
That is such a good point. I love it. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So I just want to make sure we're covering everything off. Let's see here. The chat has got a lot going on in it. So let's see here. Okay. Rickland's wondering about keywords on resumes. I've heard from other recruiters they are not as important as we are led to believe. They're more interested in your experience and how it aligns with the role. I think we know. I think I have an idea of your answer to that.
Yeah, define keywords. Like, are you just cutting and pasting from the job description?
Right.
Because if you are, and I do phone call you, I am going to hold you. I use the sentence a lot on social. If you put it in paper, you better be ready to defend it.
Yep.
Job seeker, if you put something on your resume, anything written on your resume, you better be able to defend. I will talk about anything it's fair game. If you wrote it could be a hobby. If you put it on your resume, I am likely going to ask about it. So if you're just cutting and pasting keywords to get the phone conversation, I'm going to weed you out because you may not be able to talk the talk. So don't worry so much about the keywords so much as the KPIs, the key performance indicators that you were being measured to that are transferable to this particular job. If it's in healthcare, and what setting are you coming out of? What's your patient volume? Meaning, how many patients per day are you accustomed to seeing? Because if you're telling me you come out of a place that's busy, that's way too arbitrary. What's busy to you? Well, the office was really busy. We saw 25 patients per day. Great, we see 100. So busy is not busy. That's an arbitrary term. This is where numbers actually matter instead of those fluffy adjectives.
For sure. Yeah. Another question here. What if it's a large organization, they have many departments? I think this relates back to applying to different roles. And the job posting indicates reporting to the manager of X. Should I address my cover letter to that manager in an attempt to reach out on LinkedIn?
All right.
What do you think?
So I will do a mic drop right now on cover letters.
Okay.
I have been doing this for 15 years now.
Okay.
I could count on one hand the amount of cover letters I've actually read.
Uh-oh.
Employer, if you are asking for a cover letter, is writing a requirement of the job. If it is not, why do I need a cover letter? What does my writing skills have to do with this?
Good point.
So I will never require a cover letter. So whoever asked about the cover letter, right there, I would not require it.
Okay.
But if you are doing it, they're making you jump through hoops. I'm not blind to the fact that organizations do these things. You upload your resume, and then it doesn't even parse, and you have to fill out everything from your resume in the application. So yes, people are asking you for cover letters. I think, how do you know the name of the hiring manager just based on the job description? But I think, yes, in the cover letter, you should say something along the lines of, as you may be able to see from my resume, my skills would be useful in job titles at your organization, such as A, B, and C. So that's how I would do it. But again, I'm not very big on cover letters at all.
Got it.
Sorry, I have a firm stance on that.
Okay, so let's. This is a good segue question into conversation around ageism. So, what do you think about photos on resumes? I mean, I have a very strong opinion on that. And then, how do we address the whole ageism thing?
I don't see a need to put a photo on a resume unless you are a model or an actor.
Right.
If your face is one of the job requirements, then it should be on your resume. It's a bona fide job skill. Sure.
Right.
If you are applying for a job as a male model that must have red hair and freckles, okay, put your picture on your resume if you have red hair and freckles. Yeah. But otherwise, I do not see a reason for a photo on a resume at all. If an employer is asking, I would not send one and still send my resume, because at the end of it all, the resume is still going to be looked at by the skills. I highly doubt somebody is disqualifying you because they did not put a photo. If they are disqualifying you because they did not put a photo, I would go back to, again, that's not a place I would want to work.
For sure.
And again, I will backtrack and say, super sensitive to the fact that 30 billion Americans are unemployed, so you might want to jump through the hoops and do it. But I would bet that if you do it and you end up there, in a matter of 180 days, you're looking for another job because you've identified something that you already knew.
Absolutely. Yeah. I never recommend photos on resumes. Regionally, there's some regions that require it's standard, but not in North America. No photos, please. That's my take. Okay. Ageism. We gotta tackle this. How do we navigate that on our resumes?
So I cannot take credit for this idea. This is my friend Jesse. And it has not happened, but an idea is, instead of putting dates on resumes, putting amount of experience.
Okay.
So instead of worked at Apple from 2000 to 2020.
Yep.
And then, so worked at Apple from 2000 to 2015, and then Google from 2015 to 2020.
Yep.
You would put like 20 years of industry experience in.
Okay.
Because once you start going back with dates, and even at 20 years of experience, you could start to maybe date somebody, but it's a lot harder than putting the year you graduated high school and college instead of just saying college degree, or, earned, or completed, bachelor's in from this particular university, leaving out the dates. So that's part of ageism right there. Like, right away, eliminate the dates that you went to college, that you went to high school. Because again, like I've said this now 3 or 4 times on this, subconscious bias does exist. People have these beliefs like, how is this person going to see 100 patients per day if they're not 20? And in reality, they've been seeing 150 patients per day in the ED at a level 1 trauma center. And you just didn't know that because your own bias got in the way. So you could eliminate dates on your resume, especially for college, especially for high school, even grad school, even advanced degrees like professional licensing, certifications, doctorates, PhDs. That's a way to eliminate your ageism right there. No pictures, so people can now profile you.
Right.
And then I don't think it would go over well, just eliminating the years that you worked as an organization, 1990 through 2000, instead of 10 years. But that was one way that somebody in my industry thought of a way to eliminate it. Like, let me just write a professional paragraph about myself with years of experience, and I'll tell you where I worked instead of breaking it down date by date. And that's a radical idea that you basically need employers to adjust to that.
Sorry, I lost that. Didn't catch the last thing you said.
The wild idea about eliminating dates even for time served in a job. Like, it's a great idea in theory, but you need employers to buy in on that, and employers change very slowly.
Right. Yes, that is it for sure. That's an interesting idea. It's sort of a variation on something that I do when I have clients who are really worried about ageism. Is I will take their like early career experience and show highlights without dates attached to it. And so I might bring in duration of the role if there's a particular role that I want to highlight. It all depends, but especially with the education, I chop dates graduated in almost all instances, even if the individual is quite young. So I don't like people doing math.
Depending on how many jobs you've had. Depending on how many jobs you've had in the past 15 years, you may only want to put the previous 8 years bulleted by employer, and then everything from year 9 through 15 in one large bullet of did all this. Right. And that's another way to eliminate it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we're on the same page on that. So hopefully that'll help anybody worried about ageism. So let's see. I just want to hop into the chat. Just real quick, color on resume. You don't care, right?
No, I mean, they're digital, so they show up on my screen in black and white.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah. No, but I can tell you, like, So I will share a story. There was a job way back that I was really, really interested in. And this was like technology was not what it is now. Like you definitely, by the way, anytime you're going on an interview, bring your resume. Bring it, bring it, bring it. Yes, they have it. You know they have it. Just bring it. Because I can tell you it is a pet peeve of a recruiter or a hiring manager. When they say to you, do you have a copy of your resume? They're testing you to see if you have it.
Okay.
Because if you don't, they're just annoyed that they have to go and print it. So just bring it. Just bring it. You'd rather have it than not. So where I'm going with this story, color of resume, it always makes me think of this story. I was going in for an interview and I wanted to print 3 copies of my resume that morning, and I was out of black ink. So I immediately thought, like, what's close to black? So I just changed the font color to dark blue, and I printed my resume in dark blue and brought it in on white paper, and it caught eyes. They're like, I got to ask, like, why did you print this on blue? And I said, I didn't want to show up without a resume, and I was out of black, so I had to give you something. So at least you are showing resourcefulness. Yeah. And it might create like a fun story or interaction with the person. Yeah. So even if you run out of black ink, print your resume and bring it with you. Whether it is red, brown, blue, just bring it with you. I cannot stress that enough. Bring it with you. Like when I am coaching candidates that I'm setting them up for a resume, setting them up for an interview, I am reminding them, here's a link to our website. Please research the organization. Bring a copy of your resume with you as well as any other professional materials you would deem important. And that is, do you have a portfolio? Do you have projects? Do you have a professional license? Just anything you want to bring to brag about yourself. Got it. Otherwise, like the color of the resume, I think when you're uploading it in the ATS, it's always going to look on my screen the way I have set up my dashboard. Got it. Like Twitter, you could pick if you want the hashtags to show up in blue or yellow or orange. Like every recruiter is customizing their ATS dashboard to read the way they want with their eyes. Got it. Oh, I did not know that. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, that's really good. I love that story about the blue ink. I'm never gonna forget that. The only time color of anything when it comes to like a resume comes to mind. Yeah. My blue resume. That's awesome. I did not get that job, by the way. Oh, you didn't? Even with that icebreaker? I'm so disappointed to hear that. Oh, man. Jeff says you have a great name. He's going to think twice about putting his name at the bottom of the resume. So good vibes. I would think twice too. I don't think it's foolproof, but I would definitely try it. Yeah, I think it's an interesting experiment. So let's see here. Just a quick question. Should skills be pushed up before companies work for? Should skills also be pushed up before companies work for? Oh, I think placement of the skills section on a resume. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff? I think, honestly, I don't have a preference. I think the skills at the top is a good idea. But I think like there are industry stereotypes on who is a good company to work for. And if you had those skills at a really good company, why wouldn't you want to brag on the fact? So like everybody thinks Apple, Google, like the great cutting edge companies. Like why wouldn't you want to brag about that? Like, right. If I spent 10 years at Apple or 10 years at Google, I want their name on my resume. So only put the skills under their name instead of at the top. Okay. But I mean, I am, as radical as I am very traditional. I think you should put the skills and what you did and what you excelled in each role with each employer. Okay. That's interesting. I would put my accomplishments with RadNet. Under RadNet, I would put my accomplishments with my previous employer, GoHealth, under that. I wouldn't just list all of my accomplishments on the top and then my employers. Okay. What about just skills? So when I write resumes, I have just a section that is dedicated to skills. My preference is I like to see the skills under the work experience. Okay. So in addition to the accomplishments under each of the roles, you like to see skills as well under each of them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You may have a skill that didn't come out in an accomplishment. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. Okay. So like I'm super skilled in Excel. I am really super skilled in Excel, but it's not a professional accomplishment that would show up in a bullet. Oh, right. I get you. Yeah. That makes sense. Totally.
Okay, Ricklin wants to double check on those keywords. So even if a resume is keyword rich, isn't keyword rich, it's still gonna be reviewed?
Yes.
Yes. Hope that answers
Ricklin. On anyone on my team and in my professional experiences, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I'm really learning too from all of our recruiter friends on Twitter as well. Is it doesn't sound like the keywords have that much influence. I mean, are you using them to sort anything? Like, really, what do keywords do in your business? Anything?
When I'm sourcing, I'll do a keyword search for it to show up on a resume for me to find people.
Okay, to find people.
If I'm doing a Boolean search on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, then that's going to help. But if you applied, I'm looking at your resume.
If you applied, I'm looking at your resume. Okay, that's a great.
If I'm finding you, if you have your resume out there on a job board, like if you want to be passive, some people don't want to apply to a job because they're afraid their employer will find out, but they'll just post your resume. And by the way, if you posted your resume, like that employer's TA department probably sees it and they're going to notify the hiring manager. Right. By the way, Jane Smith posted her resume 3 days ago on Indeed. That's a flight risk. We need to start thinking about that. So even if you're not applying and you're updating your resume, it's the same thing as applying. If you're applying, I don't think keywords matter. But if you want people to find you, yes, keywords have value. I would say they definitely have value then. Okay,
that's a really important distinction. So thanks for that. And also one final note from Ricklin. She really liked your story about Blue Ink.
It's a good one.
I'm never gonna forget that one. All right, so just scanning the quickly here. No, I think we addressed most of the questions, but there's a lot of positive notes here about our chat today. So we are at the top of the hour, just past the top of the hour. So I really want to address the most important question that I had scheduled to ask you today, which was, what is your favorite Office episode?
So I will tell you, this is the question I struggle with the most on tonight. I could change my answer by the minute. Right now, answering the question, I will say, it's so hard. I think I'm going to go product recall. The watermark. I think the watermark episode is probably my favorite right now.
Okay.
Just with all the side stories. I'll go product recall is my favorite.
Product recall. I haven't heard I've talked to quite a few people about their favorite Office episode, but product recall almost never comes up. That's cool. What else is in kind of like your top 3, let's say?
Booze Cruise. Loved Booze Cruise.
Booze Cruise, yes, that's a good one.
Loved it. The Foreman Grill. Love that episode. I think it's called The Injury.
Foot on the Foreman Grill.
Yeah, I think it's called The Injury. There really is no bad episode. It's like Seinfeld. There's no bad episode. They're all great. It's really hard to pick a favorite one. I couldn't even pick a favorite character. That changes by day of the week also. It definitely changes.
I do enjoy Michael Scott, but I would say my all-time favorite character is Creed.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
He's so weird.
Are you aware of the Office Ladies podcast?
Yes, I am. I listen to it here and there. Have you been listening to it actively?
Yes. Not religiously, but if I have a hard time going to sleep and I'm not on an industry podcast or a Dr. Michael Gervais and I need something different, like comedy, I will go to the Office Ladies, definitely.
Nice. I need to listen to it more. For anyone viewing that's an Office fan, type your favorite Office episode in the chat. I'd love to see. And for me, mine, I have 2, like I was mentioning to you earlier. Benihana Christmas and Dinner Party.
Oh, the Dinner Party was such a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, those are really good. See, that's the thing. They're all good.
They're all good, right? There was actually an article, I think, in the Rolling Stone about how Dinner Party is genius level TV. The writing on it is so good, and they kind of dissect it. For me, I just love it because it's so cringeworthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Benihana Christmas, I don't know. It's just so entertaining. There's so much going on in that episode. I think it's longer than most too. I think it's an hour. Yeah. Anyway.
It's a show that if it's on, you don't turn it off. Like, there are movies, even with commercials, when they come on, you don't turn them off. When you come across The Office, you're not turning it off.
No, you're not. You're not.
Right.
And how are you going to deal with The Office going off of Netflix on the 28th?
It won't crush me because I think it's, what is it? Comedy Central has it like 4 nights a week from 7 o'clock through 11 o'clock at night. Every night.
Do they?
It's either like around here every night is either The Office, South Park, or Schitt's Creek, and I'm fine with all of those in anything. Granted, if I have time, if my children let me watch TV, so I'll be okay. Even if it's off Netflix, it's okay. And you can find everything on YouTube also.
That's true. I'm very pleased to hear that you like Schitt's Creek also. I'm a fan of Schitt's Creek, and of course, being Canadian, I appreciate that. What's that?
Just starting. Like, I'm not, we are not deep in at all. Like, so my wife hates The Office, she hates Parks and Rec, but all of her friends love Schitt's Creek, so she started it with me. So I have to go much slower because we can only watch it together, and that is very rare. We're very rarely both doing nothing at the same time.
That's very relatable. She doesn't like Parks and Rec? I don't know.
No.
Wow. I thought everybody liked Parks and Rec. Oh, well.
Nope.
Well,
I don't hold it against her.
Yeah. Well, thanks. We've now gone over time. So thank you so much for your time tonight, Jeff. Really appreciate it. People are really loving our session tonight. Great conversation. Thanks from Dolores. Ricklin says this was excellent and informative. And Helen, great stuff. I'm glad I joined. Good night to you all. And thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And really thank you, Jeff, for your time and sharing all of your insights. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Good. Oh, that's so great. And again, if you want to talk to Jeff and connect with him, Twitter, he hangs out there a lot. And his Twitter handle, I think it's at Jeffrey W. Shapiro, right? Is your Twitter handle?
Yep.
And then on LinkedIn as well. You can catch him. And I've linked his social in the description of the YouTube video. So all the best to you, to everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Take care.
Happy hunting, job seekers.